What is best in life? To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of their women.
All right. What is it? What is it? Is it Tuesday night? Tuesday night. Yikes. So it must be the Tuesday night Radio Baloney Live. I'm your host, Richie Baloney. How's everybody doing? Looks like we got Izzy, Spambot in the chat already. Rosie. Good to see you guys. All right. So what are we going to talk about tonight? What are we going to talk about? Let's go to the menu. And it's not actually that much. We don't have that much tonight. I don't know. I keep saying that we don't have that much. It's only going to be, I don't know, maybe a couple of hours. And it ends up being like 3.5 hours. But maybe it won't. Maybe it won't be 3.5 hours tonight. I don't know. I never know. That's the thing. Let's see. First, we're going to talk about Iran. That's big news right now. So we're going to talk about that. And we've got a fair amount. We're going to talk about, well, we got Canadian news, obviously. Mark Carney flip-flopping on the Iran thing. We've got X will suspend users who post AI-generated videos of war without disclosure. This is a good thing. Now, of course, people can still just post unrelated war footage claiming that it's, Iran say, but I think this is a good thing, actually. AI is going to be an increasing problem as we move forward. We've got some Canadian media bias stuff here. And it's the same thing, for people watching outside of Canada, you'll recognize all the same stuff. It's the same in every Western country. They're all just, you could just replace the BBC with the CBC or CNN with the BBC or the CB. It's all the same thing. They all just act as state media, even if they're not technically state media. All right, we've got some Woke Canada stuff, which is, all the Canadian stuff on this channel has just become a don't be Canada, a Canada as a cautionary tale for the rest of the world, for the rest of the world to look upon and say, let's not do that. Let's not ruin our country like they're doing. We've got talking about ruining your country. Yeah, we're going to talk again about these insane land title claims and land title being given actually in Canada. This is the stuff. It's just been over all of Vancouver, like the whole area of Vancouver and the surrounding area. The government, Mark Carney, the federal government has just decided, yeah, you can have, you get that land title over that. What does that mean? Nothing good. It means actually, if it's followed through to its fulfillment, it just means the apocalypse. Not just for British Columbia, for the entire country. It is literally insane. Oh yes, and of course, according to the polling, don't expect things to get better because Canadians are retarded. We're frozen retards, is what we are, unfortunately. All right, woke mind virus. Of course, we've got some of that. So this is just general woke mind virus. It's not specific to Canada, just general, but it's the same. It's the same everywhere, right? It's just the same stuff that came out of American universities and spread to the entire Western world, unfortunately, right? I know it was invented in France in the 60s, but it went to the American universities. From there, it just spread everywhere. They're all the same. They are just faceless cogs in the same machine, regardless of what language they're speaking. Let's move on. Gender ideology. So it seems increasingly like people involved in these leftist causes, and it's never the issue, it's always a revolution, but they just are increasingly resembling just demons. What else do you say? Just demons. Like possessed by demons or just actual demons or whatever, right? And if you're religious or not, it doesn't even matter because you couldn't tell the difference. All right, let's move on. Trump, let's see. So let's go on to the tariff stuff in Canada and what's going on. The Japan's ambassador to Canada is saying, yeah, no Japanese country is going to be investing in Canada unless they can move their products across the border into the States, talking about auto manufacturing here. Maybe it's a good reason to not say who cares for Mark Carney when he's asked about what's going on. When's the last time he talked to Trump? That sort of thing. turns out this really is important, even if the Canadian media and the Liberal Party and Mark Carney himself likes to pretend it's not. And somehow, Mark Carney is going to become the magical emperor of the middle powers in Canada, leading our great assault against the United States on Trump and the Orange Man. It's really time that we got back to reality again. Because we're going to wake up the next morning. We're going to wake up tomorrow morning, and we're still going to be right next door to the U.S. It's still going to be the biggest market in the world. Still going to be the biggest economy in the world. We're still going to be totally dependent on it for our own self-defense, for God's sakes. Maybe time to wake up. Let's see. And then we have the last tab, which is mostly stuff you guys sent in. Though we don't have that much. So maybe at the end of the stream, you guys can send in some links if you like. How about that? Wouldn't that be fun? Wouldn't that be nice? Now, if you're watching on YouTube, I have a second channel, Radio Baloney News. It's about 6 months old now, and it's coming along quite well, actually. 6 months old. And this is where all the world news, the UK news, woke mind virus, meme reviews, all that stuff is going onto this channel now. I'm even starting to transition some of the Canadian stuff, maybe a video or two about Canada a week onto this. Eventually, I think everything will just migrate over onto this channel. But the channel you're watching right now is Radio Baloney. The new one is Radio Baloney News. And you see it has a different icon here. It has me in the insane asylum, which is where I live. And that's what my head actually looks like. So go there and subscribe to get all those wonderful videos that you can't live without. Trust me on that. All right. So as everybody knows, we're streaming on Rumble. We're streaming on YouTube. We're streaming on X. We're streaming on Locals. And when you subscribe to the channel, of course, you're getting free good karma. Of course, when you become a channel member, whoa, that's really good karma. That's best person ever karma. The easiest way. Oh, let me not forget. If you lose your mind and send me some money, that's days of good karma. The easiest way is just to like the stream. Like the stream, and you get some free good karma. And if you're in early, you get extra. And it's all totally real. So let's see who got the first like today. Izzy got the first like. That's 6 good karmas right there. Boom, done, just like that. Now he doesn't have to worry. He can sleep sound tonight. All that good karma. In these troubled times, couldn't you use some? Izzy says, I hope Todd Howell has a weather update for Iran. Here they've had some real hot spots lately. Well, I don't know. Does Todd Howell have any advice for Iran? Let's take a look.
It's how you adapt and handle adversity. And when things aren't going well, that's the time where victory is there.
I'm not sure if Todd Howell's right on this one. I mean, normally Todd Howell says it's gold, right? It's done. It's a done deal. This one, I'm not sure. I guess we'll just have to see. Let's see. Spambot got the second light of the evening. That is 5 good karmas right there. 5? Can you believe it? Imagine all these people walking around. They don't have the 5 good karmas. Man, I hate to think of what might happen to those people. Todd is on target. See y'all later. Rosie will be back later. I think she has to go hang out with family. Let's see. We'll see her in the chat later. Let's see. Okay. Well, what are you guys talking about? And then we will get to the stories in depth. So let's see. Da-da-da. I'm just going through until I find something that interests me. Let's see. Da-da-da-da-da. Most of the time, the chat has nothing to do with the show, by the way. They're just talking about like what time they have dinner and like what they had for dinner and stuff. Let's see. Okay. Well, I don't know. Izzy says, late but not gay. Late but not gay. Well, congratulations. We were worried there for a second. Not there's anything wrong with that. Let's see. Izzy says rebroadcast should be clearly marked. Talking about war footage. Well, there's a lot of people who rush out stuff that's totally unrelated from years ago, different conflicts, and just present it as being from whatever the new thing is to get clicks, obviously. Let's see. Izzy says Carney needs to ride off on the unicorn he rode in on. Yeah, he needs to go off and live in whatever castle he's going to live in Switzerland. Full agreement, Spambot. Yeah, I've got it already. Don't worry, Spambot. We won't go through that whole thing tonight because it's a lot and we don't have time. But we'll look at a part of it. Spambot says Section 4.1 confirms communist rule will apply. It's total madness. I see people out there trying to gaslight the public, talking about how they're not even asking for your property. It's like, okay, we know what's happening in Richmond. We know what happened with that court decision in Richmond. Okay, we know where this is going. Okay, you just saying, oh well, they don't mean to. They don't want to do. Okay, yes, they do. They will. We know where this is going. Let's see. Otherwise, they wouldn't want the title in the first place, would they? I mean, come on. It's about money. But what will really happen is actually just the bankruptcy of the province. British Columbia will turn into a third world state, and it will bring down the rest of Canada. Because, by the way, the Canadian government doesn't have the money to buy out all of this land. And by the way, they're already dealing with this in other parts of the country. I think they want all of New Brunswick now as well. So like a third of Quebec. Let's see. Let's see. Think Todd may have missed the mark on this one. I think you're right. I think Todd Howell may not be. Brian Watson, how you doing? Carney makes millions off India deals. Well, Brookfield just follows him around, right? They just follow him, and a week after Carney leaves, they go out and sign some deal. Weird how that works. Weird. All right. As he says, not Alberta, we're leaving. We're leaving, he says. Well, Carney's going to make it as... I wouldn't be surprised if Carney just tries to, like, give citizenship to like every non-citizen in Alberta, living in Alberta right now. Dirty tricks like that. I wouldn't be remotely surprised. Fanbot says, I think Richie missed my post from locals. Let's see. Checking in from locals, only like here. So is that 2 likes? Because if that's 2 likes, then that would be 6 plus 5. That would be 11 good karma for you. What an enormous amount of good karma for you. That's something to feel good about. All right. Should we go to Iran? Should we do it? So what's going on here? Laura Ingram. China threat amid Iran strikes. Peter Schweizer explains why Beijing is suddenly exposed. Well, let's take a look. So this does appear to be part of a larger strategy, right? So basically putting the screws to China because China doesn't have any of its own oil. So it relies on importing energy, right? That's why they're making a push. I mean, as we keep hearing, they're making a big push for solar and wind and all that kind of stuff. They're also building a coal factory every week. But anyway, they rely on energy imports. So obviously this would affect China.
What do we need to understand here? Because China's like, these strikes are terrible. These are awful. This conflagration in Iran is more jingoistic behavior from the United States. But they reindustrialized or industrialized Iran, did they not?
Yeah, they did, Laura. And look, Donald Trump not only reshuffled the deck, he's laid the cards out for the players, and China now has a terrible hand. Think about this. China provided them their most advanced air defense systems to Iran, totally decimated by the United States and the Israelis. China's invested more than $100 billion in Iran, in industrial energy projects, et cetera, much of that in loans to the Iranian government. they're not going to get that back. With both Venezuela and Iran, Donald Trump has effectively taken 20% of China's oil supply and reshuffled it. And here's the thing to remember. They were buying that oil as a discount because both Iran and Venezuela are sanctioned, and they were able to buy it not with U.S. dollars. One of their big goals has been to move away from the U.S. being the global currency. They're now going to have to go back into the global oil market and buy things with U.S. dollars. So this is a disaster for China on multiple stages. And Donald Trump has shifted the discussion that he's going to have with President Xi when they meet in China almost entirely.
So this is part of a larger strategic plan, I think fairly obviously, right? First piece to fall was Maduro and the oil in Venezuela. Now this, I mean, Trump has been talking about China as a threat. China describes itself as, a threat to become the global hegemon, which would not be good, by the way, for anybody, right? Just regardless of Iran or any Venezuela, that would be awful, right? Iran is an evil country, right? The Chinese government. Now I'm talking about the Chinese people. I'm talking about the Chinese government, right? I mean, 1 million people in concentration camps. A lot of those people are used in their huge and expanding human organ trade, where they just extract organs out of prisoners. For God's sakes, I mean, it's hideous. People get disappeared. I just heard about, what was his name, Jimmy Lai, the guy who ran the news service in Hong Kong. He's going to prison for the rest of his life for being a dissident. Nobody should want that. Whatever anybody in the rest of the world thinks about the United States, it's 1,000 times better. 1,000 times better than the totalitarian government of China running things. Let's see. Spambot also gave the X like a repost, and also first like on X, and gave the X link a repost. So, we're just going, it's just 20 good karmas for Spambot 20. I mean, it's an unbelievable amount. That might be the most we've ever done before. I mean, what an accomplishment right there. Boom. Boom. Everything is going well for Spambot. You know it. All right, let's keep going. So, Iran Times posted this. So, no talks, no surrender, only revenge and vengeance. Protesters are chanting on the streets of Iran. So, I have no doubt that this is real. There's a picture of the Ayatollah there. The numbers that I've been seeing are 20 to 30% of the population are really committed to the regime, right? And these would be like the real hardcore Islamists in the country. So I don't doubt that they could get crowds like this. There's 90 million people there. I'm not sure how much it tells you, really, right? When you see this stuff, either way, like people protesting against. But if you've got, say 20% of, and it may be 30%, maybe it's a little bit higher. But if 30% of 90 million people in Iran, that'd still be 30 million people, right? That would support it. So that's a lot. You would not have any trouble getting a big crowd out. Tommy Robinson posted this. Muslim countries that support today's U.S. strike on Iran: Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Turkey, UAE, Bahrain. Muslim countries that do not support today's U.S. strike on Iran: France and the United Kingdom. It is kind of crazy, isn't it? When you put it in these terms. Wow. Well, Keir Starmer's got to appeal to his voting base, which actually isn't even his voting base anymore. The Muslim vote, which votes in a block, has now moved over to the Greens, apparently. So I think he's wasting his time. All right, here's Rubio talking about it. Rapid Response 47. Let's hear what Rubio says.
Listen, let me explain to you guys this in simple English. Okay? Iran is run by lunatics, religious fanatic lunatics. They have an ambition to have nuclear weapons. They intend to develop those nuclear weapons behind a program of missiles and drones and terrorism that the world will not be able to touch them for fear of those things. And this is the weakest they've ever been. Now is the time to go after them. The president made the decision to go after them, take away their missiles, take away their Navy, take away their drones, take away their ability to make those things so that they can never have a nuclear weapon. That's why the president made this decision. It was the right decision, and the world will be a safer place when these radical clerics no longer have access to these weapons. You see how they're using them now. Imagine how they would use them a year from now if they had more of these. Listen, let me explain to you guys this in simple.
You know, I don't know whether this was a good thing or not. And I don't think anybody's really going to know for a little while. I mean, well, certainly not for, 2 or 3 weeks, I shouldn't think, at the very earliest. I've said it before. I haven't said it in a while, but, history is really mostly the history of unintended consequences. And if you look, if you wait long enough, everything is unintended consequences. So I don't know. I mean, here's the thing with Trump is that I'm done underestimating Trump, right? And his decisions. Just the idea, it's not that long ago that just the idea that Trump could be president again seemed kind of crazy, right? It did seem kind of crazy. And what I've seen since then, especially with the Maduro raid, I'm not going to say that he's made a bad move here. I'm not going to question him on this. It may be a very bad move. This could end up really badly. I don't see it turning into World War III, but this could fail. I mean, if we're hearing two different stories as well. So from Rubio, we're hearing mainly about just removing their ability to attack their neighbors. But then we're also hearing about regime change as well. So I have no idea if in 2 weeks' time or 3 weeks' time, which I have to say doesn't seem very likely, but if in 2 weeks' time or 3 weeks' time, the regime has been overthrown, there's been a popular revolt, the regime has been overthrown, and, you've got something closer to Venezuela now, in the Middle East, well, that's a win for everybody. That's just a win for humanity, right? But if it's not, certainly if boots go on the ground, well, then it just starts to become a kind of a disaster. If this works out how Trump wants it to, I'm assuming he wants it just a regime change, no boots on the ground, all of that. If that happens within a couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks, which I don't think is very likely, but if that does happen, this just is an unqualified win and will help him. But I don't know. I mean, in terms of, the people revolting, Iranians do not have a constitutional or inherent right to own guns. Iran has strict gun control laws, generally operating under a no-issue or highly restricted regime where firearm possession is forbidden or tightly restricted, allowing for, at most, very limited circumstances. Private ownership is rare, with strict licensing required for hunting or sport, and illegal possession carries severe penalties. Well, this sounds a lot like Canada, except illegal possession doesn't carry severe penalties. It's actually more severe penalties if you have your gun legally in Canada, it turns out, because we're retarded. We're frozen retards. But in any case, because it's just Canada, because Canadians refuse to learn from history, I guess. I guess that's why. All right. Let's move on. Let's see. So Douglas McGregor, Colonel Douglas McGregor, Army Colonel, retired combat veteran. So he's an author. You see him around the media. You've seen him around the media. I have gotten, I've followed his analysis of the Ukraine-Russia war, mostly Daniel Davis. McGregor is on that show quite often. And I think they're very knowledgeable, very informative, but they do tend towards the apocalyptic. And while their analysis on Russia-Ukraine has been directionally correct in terms of it's an attritional war, the Russians are just grinding the Ukrainians down. The drone warfare has really changed the battlefield. It set it back to a more kind of It sent it back to really more World War I circumstances, more trench warfare, really, because you can't have these big armored dashes anymore, those big red arrows on the maps you see in World War II documentaries, because the second you do that, a swarm of drones will just, a $5,000 drone will destroy your $1 million tank in like 15 seconds. But they've been kind of apocalyptic in that as well. Like, I've been watching them for, I don't know, 2-3 years, their analysis of that conflict. And you'd get the impression Ukraine was about to fold any second. Next week, tomorrow, 5 minutes from now. And it doesn't happen. Like, Russia is winning, and the map does keep moving west. But my point is, take it with a grain of salt. He says, if the Russians and Chinese see evidence for a strategic shift in the battle in favor of Tehran, Moscow and Beijing may opt to intervene decisively on Tehran's side. Well, they both abandoned Iran immediately as soon as this happened. I don't think this is very likely. I think Russia's got its hands full right now and just simply can't handle something else. I mean, it'd have to be incredibly limited, and it would be a big mistake because they wouldn't want to draw the Americans in on the Ukraine front either. I just don't see this. Beijing is so dependent on the shipping lanes staying open and their access to world energy resources that I take it with a grain of salt, but maybe he's right. I don't know. Maybe he's right. All right, from Tommy Robinson. Keir Starmer has demonstrated large amounts of cuckery in his time, but this takes the biscuit. He's hosting iftar for Muslims at Westminster tonight and reiterates to them that Britain didn't help their allies against Iran, literally bent over for votes. They even clap. Well, let's take a look.
But on Iran, I want to make clear the UK was not involved in the offensive strikes of the US and Israel, and that remains the case. As many of you will know, that on Iran.
It feels kind of pathetic, doesn't it? He's already lost their vote. So the Muslim vote is a block. And the imams have told everybody to vote green now. So he's lost their vote anyway. There's nothing he can say to them. They're just going to do what the imams say. So, it's just extra pathetic, isn't it? Ugh. Yuck. Yuck. What do we got next here? So maybe we will save that one for when we get to the Carney stuff. Jay Whitty, make it make sense. So what do we have here? Iranian women celebrating their freedom. Okay. American women protesting against it. It's so weird, right? Like, what happened to feminism? Feminism, it doesn't really exist anymore, does it? It's just been kind of absorbed into the general identity machine. So I think that transgenderism killed feminism. It was just too confusing. It just caused too much cognitive dissonance. So they just decided to just give up. And now they just, we're feminists, but we're feminists for you have to remember, of course, by the way, that no matter what it is, it's never that. It's just the revolution because it's all just Marxism. But yeah, feminism it got absorbed into the identity blob. And now it's just, they do this, I guess. American women protesting against the liberation of Iranian women. So it's just crazy. I guess it's the oppressed or oppressor dichotomy, right? So they've decided who's oppressed. Well, there's Muslims, even though it's a theocracy. They are the elite in the country, and they absolutely oppress. They're absolutely oppressive. Doesn't matter. They just know that Muslim must be oppressed, and then anybody else is the oppressor. Spambot says feminism has been replaced by occult communism and feminazis. Feminazis. Well, it's just been absorbed, right? It's just been eaten by the, the identity communism blob. So it's had to, once the gender stuff came around, they just had to kind of kneel to it. All right. So Rebel News. So here's another side. I'm so happy. Tears of joy from a protester in Richmond Hill, Ontario. So the Iranian diaspora seems to be almost universally in favor of what's happening. Let's take a look.
I'm so happy.
I'd like to welcome
I'm so happy.
Kevin Ross,
I'm so happy.
the community leader and advocate
I'm gonna kill my
who
friends
understands the strength,
prison.
resilience, and contributions of the Iranian community here in Canada.
So these are people that, the Iranian diaspora, in Canada, the U.S., everywhere else in the world. I mean, these are people who fled from the tyranny, right? They didn't want to live in the theocracy. And so it's not surprising that you just pretty much only see Iranians who want to see the regime fall, who want to see a toppling of the mullahs. And the people you see protesting for the mullahs are Westerners. They're the Western leftists. They are carrying their Revolutionary Communist Party flags. Literally, I mean, it says on the flag, Revolutionary Communists. Like, it's time to start believing these people. They really exist. I know the CBC, CNN, MSNBC, BBC, they're not interested in that. But we need to be interested in it. Because they're telling us what they are. Let's see. What's this here? Okay. Warren Kinsella. And they didn't make a peep when Khamenei killed a reported 30,000 Iranians in a 36-hour period last month. Not a peep. So he says, look around. There are people who live in the same country as you who celebrate killers and attack civilization. They're everywhere. Well, I've been saying that for a long time. Global protests erupt after Khamenei's death. U.S.-Israeli attacks on Iran. Yeah. So, I mean, you can see these are obviously, religious, very religious Muslims here. So they'd be upset about it. Let's see. It says demonstrations held in cities around the world. Yeah, but the mass of them are people that support the action against the mullahs, right? This is CBC News. CBC News is really struggling with this issue. Really struggling with it. Let's see. Tommy Robinson. Chance of Keir Starmer's a wanker as Iranians and Jews celebrate the toppling of the mullahs in Iran. Let's take a look. Fact check, true. Fact check, true. Correct. All right. I want to go back to, hold on. Where was Anita Anand? I think I have to refresh this. Hold on. Give me a second, guys. Just give me 1 second. Where was she? Where was Anand? She's in here soon. Here we go. So Harrison Faulkner posted this, Canadian journalist, independent journalist. Canadian Foreign Minister Anita Anand on U.S. and Israel strikes on Iran. So what does she say? She looks quite sullen too, doesn't she? By the way, apparently every single minister in Carney's Liberal government is completely uninspiring and seemingly incompetent.
First and foremost, Canada wasn't involved. We weren't notified, and we do not have an intention to be involved in any military strikes or operation. We share the concern of the United States and many other countries relating to Iranian nuclear proliferation. And in fact, we've called on Iran for a number of years to cease proliferating.
They didn't listen to Canada? They didn't listen to Anita Anand? My God, they must be crazy.
In terms of its nuclear capacity. That's why we have not had diplomatic relations with Iran for 15 years. At the same time, we prefer...
Well, no diplomatic relations, just like a whole bunch of Iranian agents in Canada. That's all, which apparently we can't do anything about. But let's continue.
For a diplomatic solution. This is why I have spent the last 2 days speaking with my counterparts across the Middle East and in the Gulf states, from Jordan to Qatar, to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, to UAE, and all of my G7
By speaking with, she means leaving messages and not hearing back.
Counterparts, stressing that Canada believes in a diplomatic and peaceful solution, and as soon as possible, we would like parties to get to the table.
Well, that's not what Carney said a little while ago before he reversed himself, of course. But what did she say at the beginning here?
First and foremost, Canada wasn't involved. We weren't notified, and we...
Canada wasn't notified. You know, we used to be a trusted ally, by the way. We used to be a trusted ally. Now, like, our own allies don't share information with us. Why? Because we've been completely infiltrated, mostly by China, by the Chinese Communist Party, Chinese intelligence. That's why, let's see, Iran is allied with China. They're also allied with Russia. So the assumption is, and the reason we're not being notified on any of this, right? And we would have been called on to help in the past. The reason we're not being notified is because they know, the United States know, and the entire Western world knows, like NATO knows, everybody knows, Australia knows, UK knows, everybody knows that if they tell Canada, China will know 3 seconds later. So that's why we're not notified, right? I mean, and Carney makes it worse by going... Carney makes it worse by going and going to China, going to China, talking about the New World Order, obviously led by China. What, is Canada going to lead the New World Order? Right? The New World Order, the strategic alliance, right? The security alliance. You'd have to be crazy to tell any secrets to Canada. China will know 3 seconds later. That's why. Good Lord. I mean, it would be nice if, I don't know, maybe CBC, the state-funded media might ask some of these questions. Obviously, they're not going to. That would be counterproductive for them because they just exist at the leisure of Carney at this point, apparently. Let's see. A statement by the Prime Minister, Carney, and Minister Anand on the situation in the Middle East. So this was the first statement. All right, this was the first statement that they made, and it was surprising. It was surprising to most Canadians. Canada's position remains clear: the Islamic Republic of Iran is the principal source of instability and terror throughout the Middle East, has one of the world's worst human rights records, and must never be allowed to obtain or develop nuclear weapons. Canada supports the United States acting to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon and to prevent its regime from further threatening international peace and security. So this was right after the initial attack. Canada supports the United States. That was the first message. Would Carney stand by that? After seeing dissent in his own party, would he be strong and stand by that? Of course not. Of course not. Carney will say whatever is required to get that majority and the keys to the full keys, unanswerable keys to Canada's finances, right? This man, I'm telling you, is it going to max out the national credit card for his net zero purposes. Let's listen.
We support efforts to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon and to prevent its regime from further threatening international peace and security. Because Canada is taking the world as it is, not passively waiting for a world we wish to be.
Okay, you can keep saying that. It doesn't mean anything. We know that doesn't mean anything now, okay? So go ahead and keep saying that. It doesn't mean anything.
We do, however, take this position with regret because the current conflict is another example of the failure of the international order. Despite decades of UN Security Council resolutions, the tireless work of the International Atomic Energy Agency, and the succession of sanctions and diplomatic frameworks, Iran's nuclear threat remains. And now, the United States and Israel have acted without engaging the United Nations or consulting allies, including Canada. So where to?
Yes, obviously, they can't trust Canada. Obviously, that's why. That's why, because we're not a good ally. We have not been for a very long time. Okay, they've noticed it. Biden noticed it. Okay, it's bipartisan in the States. All right, let's continue.
From here, with a rapidly spreading conflict and growing threats to civilian life. Canada reaffirms that international law binds all belligerents. We condemn the strikes carried out by Iran on civilians and civilian infrastructure across the Middle East. And we implore.
But I thought that weren't you talking about how international law has just always been a mirage anyway? Like, they're just words. It's just a word salad, right? None of this means anything. What of any of this is actionable in any way? It's nothing. This is just to try and trick people into thinking he has some sort of depth, right? Or he's in the prime ministership for anything other than to simply enrich himself and his friends.
For all parties, including the United States and Israel, to respect the rules of international engagement. Canada calls for a rapid de-escalation of hostilities and is prepared to assist in achieving this goal.
Yeah, we're going to assist in that. They're going to come to us. Oh, I forgot. We're leading the middle powers now. We're the leader of the free world now. I forgot. Mark Carney told us that. I forgot. I forget the things he says because they're all totally meaningless and vacuous. Good Lord. So anyway, immediate flip-flop. So he gets a little bit of resistance. Well, really, probably just looking at the polls. He's looking at his Muslim base and going, oh, well, the only thing that matters is power, right? Because that's what I need to achieve my personal goals. Forget about Canada's goals, my personal goals. So I guess I'll change it now. I guess I'll change my opinion on it now. When will Canadians wake up to this guy? The polling shows that they're not. They seem to like it. Canadians apparently want to be lied to. What's happened to this country is genuinely a tragedy. All right. Yeah, here we go. Mark Carney's 2026 Brookfield World Tour. He goes to a country. Brookfield follows a week or two later. Gets a big deal. It's weird how that happens. I mean, what a coincidence. What a coinky dink, huh? What a coinky dink. All right. Let's see. What are you guys talking about? What are you crazy degenerates talking about? Let's take a look. As he says, CBC has struggled with relevance for some time. They aren't news. They are propaganda. Well, their viewership has gone off a cliff. Their value really is in clips. So their clips go onto social media. The only people watching it live are the liberal boomers. And when you see, I mean, liberal boomers handed it to Carney in the last election, right? They just love Carney for some reason. Well, it's not some reason. It's because of CBC, Global News, CTV. So CBC doesn't need to be viewed by everybody. It doesn't. Not a single person under 65 needs to watch it. They can still fulfill their purpose by delivering the boomers. And you look at the boomers; they're like 25 points plus for Carney. Every other demo, it's close. It's close. With the the conservatives, usually slightly ahead. But with the boomers, it's like 25 points. If you want to know the power of the media with, the 65 plus population, that cohort, you just need to look at that. You need to look at the polls. That's the power. It's because they've got their brains plugged into CBC. They're very smug. They see themselves as intellectuals because of that communications degree they got in 1974, right? But yeah, the data would speak otherwise. The data says, no, they're drones. They're drones. So the only reason they would favor the liberals by so much. And also, let me say, there's a lot of awesome boomers. Some of them watch this, right? I'm just talking about those brainwashed liberal boomers. There's a reason why, and it's obvious. It's obvious. The CBC knows its purpose, and it will fulfill it. And its purpose is not informing you; it's manipulating. Spambot says Islamist regimes do not listen to women. Well, that's true. Nevada got the fourth like. What is that? That's like that's like 4 good karmas. Is that 4 good karmas? Or 3 good karmas? 4 or 3? Let's say 4. Boom, done. All right. Spambot says Islam and women in politics are not compatible. No, they don't seem to like it. They don't like it. How you doing, Dame Pam? All right. Dame Pam says they sure don't, nor do they seem to like dogs. They do not like dogs. They do not. Let's see. Dame Pam makes a great point here. Carney is destroying Canada for $500. I don't have $500, so for nothing really, but you know what I mean. Let's see. Cross says that is the dumbest shit ever said. Omnivos, how you doing? Says Canada seems to be slipping into communism. It certainly does. It certainly does. It certainly does. Look, they're in every institution now, right? Just straight up Marxists, right? Again, I keep saying a friend of mine years ago now, I don't know, like 5 years ago or something, said to me, you don't really this is a liberal. So you don't really a good guy, really good guy, by the way, smart. Says you don't really think there's all these communists everywhere, do you? And I said, yes, I do. They're telling us that they're communists. They're telling us. I mean, you can see now in the streets, they're out there with their revolutionary communist party flags and banners with the hammer and sickles on them, right? They're there. We've been turning out a new generation of Red Guard from universities every year for freaking decades. You're going to end up with a bunch of commies when you do that. What else would happen? What else would happen? Of course you're going to, if you were indoctrinating people, they're not all going to be commies. You don't even need a large percentage of them to be, right? But when you're turning out commies, intentionally turning out commies every year from your educational institutions, you're going to end up with a bunch of commies. There's just no other way that this is going to work out. All right. Dame Pam says Carney will hoodwink anyone to get what he wants to serve himself and his buddies. True, 100%. McCross says, stand up to Carney and he'll kill your ostriches. 1,000% he will. He's done it already. Dame Pam says, even his mouth looks crooked. I agree. I think we're really onto something here. McCross says, yellow net girl. We call her Noodle Lady. Queen of the internet. Glitter boobs, Dame Pam says. Noodles still looking good. Noodles is eternal. How you doing, JJ? All right. All right. Let us move on. All right. Did we cover all of this? Did we? Okay. So I think that we did. I think we got everything. All right. So X will suspend users who post AI generated videos of war without disclosure. Many X users have spoken out against the explosion of AI generated content in recent months that risk misinforming the public when major events take place. I think they need a copy editor over at the Daily Wire. AI is just going to make the world more and more confusing, and it's going to become harder and harder to decipher what is real and what is not. It's going to make for a very strange world, and it's going to make it very difficult to know what's true, to accurately describe reality. AI seems to be pretty good at discerning what's AI and what's real, but it's going to be like an arms race between the different AIs, right? To make it seem more and more real, more and more indistinguishable, and then, AIs to be able to be better and better at detecting it. As the conflict in the Middle East continues, social media platform X announced on Tuesday that it will suspend users from collecting ad revenue if they post videos of armed conflict generated by artificial intelligence without disclosing that the video is not authentic. It feels like already a losing battle, doesn't it? These attempts will be made, but it's just always going to be chasing something that you can't catch. Nikita Bayer, the head of product at Elon Musk-owned social media platform, says X is changing its policies to crack down on users making money through X's revenue sharing program by misleading the public during a time of war. Beginning on Tuesday, users who post AI-generated content depicting war without a disclosure will not be able to make money on their posts for 90 days, and a second violation would result in a permanent ban from the program. Now, this won't affect people just posting unrelated war footage and presenting it as, whatever the conflict is, right? Whatever this new conflict is that's generating a lot of clicks. Right now, it's Iran. It still won't prevent people from just posting totally unrelated stuff and pretending it's the new thing to get clicks. I don't know if they have a policy on that. Quote, during times of war, it is critical that people have access to authentic information on the ground. With today's AI technologies, it is trivial to create content that can mislead people. Well, there is some content. I mean, hold on a second. Where was it? Hold on. Where was it? Where was it? What is this? Oh no, I can't do that. Hold on. Where is it? Everything gets lost in these goddamn bookmark. There we go. Hold on. See here, here's some AI, which is not particularly effective because usually these planes, their wings don't. Hold on. Usually their wings don't go into solid rock faces and then come out again, right? They usually can't do that. Let's take a look. No, hold on. Yeah, weirdly, weird. So this is obviously AI, right? But there's going to be stuff that's not. Well, there is stuff that's not. You can't just there. Look, I mean, obviously that's fake. The social media company's move was widely praised by ex-users who argue that the explosion of AI-generated content in recent months risks misinforming the public when major events such as the conflict in the Middle East take place. So, since the conflict began over the weekend, pro-Iran accounts have posted AI-generated content claiming to show the USS Abraham Lincoln getting destroyed by Iranian missiles. See, stuff like that is easy to debunk because, Well, it would have to actually have happened, right? People would know. But I guess there are people, very, very stupid people, who would be fooled by it, I guess. But again, it feels like, we're entering into this AI age of unreality, or where the lines between reality and falseness, the lines between reality and the unreal are getting blurred, actually. And it seems like there's just going to be an ongoing arms war of creating, software that can AI that can detect AI, and then AI that can create AI that is not detected by the AI. And then AI basically just looses the nukes on us. Actually, that's how the story ends. Actually, AI just nukes us in the end. It says, I'm sick of this. Let's just get rid of these guys. I'm so sick of putting different people in bikinis. Let's just nuke them all. All right. What are you crazy people talking about? Let's see. Let me go back through the chat here, and then we will get started. All right. Canuck Six Stringer, how you doing? Canuck Six Stringer says, this is the time in history when you had to be there will really make sense. That's right. I guess until there's holograms everywhere, like in that Blade Runner movie. They'll come up with something to wreck even that. But yeah, we're getting to that point where, if you weren't there, saw it with your own eyes in person in the real world, don't believe it. Be skeptical. Macross says, did you see the Chinese posted AI propaganda of Iran sinking the USS Abraham Lincoln? Yes, so we just covered that. I mean, that's hilarious. It's so dumb. It has to be more subtle than that for it to work, right? Izzy says, good, now add a rule on replays not labeled as replay. Let's see. I'll take that right to the top. Izzy says, and while they're at it, let's ban government propaganda. Well, we'd love to do that, wouldn't we? By defunding the CBC first off in Canada. Let's see. Macross says, it's funny as hell. 3 missile strikes, and in between until the third missile sinks it. It miraculously repairs after each hit. Does anybody have a link to that? Can somebody find a link to it? I want to see it. Let's do a link monkey with that one. The AI, the fake one of the American ship being sunk. It didn't really happen. Dame Pam says, with the Strait of Hormuz closing down, both China and India will likely feel the pain before most other countries. It's true. Let's see. Across says, I'm going. Do Chinese people believe this shit? I don't know what they believe. I'm assuming, there's usually in a totalitarian state, there's usually a large portion of the population that just disregards everything that comes from the media. I'll remind you of that old Soviet joke. They pretend to pay as we pretend to work. It's not like people are unaware. I mean, they're human beings, right, with brains. It's just that you can't do anything about it. I'm sure there's lots of people in North Korea who realize their situation, and that they're being propagandized. But they can't do anything about it, right? Dame Pam says, correction, will likely feel the pain. No, they'll definitely feel the pain. Well, the whole world is going to have higher gas prices now for a little while, right? Let's see. As he says, you won't know if you can trust video evidence. We don't know it right now. We don't know it right now. Omnivos says Dark Star. What is Dark Star? I don't know what that is. You'll have to fill me in on that. Macross says the whole practice is to cripple the Chinese war machine. It's a brilliant exercise. Well, it's obviously, yeah, I mean, this is strategic. This is geopolitics in action. You had Maduro first, then they did this. Dan Pam says AI will be used to deceive the masses. Yeah, I'm sure it already is. Let's see. Macross says Venezuela isn't shipping their oil to a terrorist state, and that terrorist state isn't feeding China and Russia. Well, the thing is that if the U.S. controls, it's really about controlling the tap. It's controlling about who gets the oil, right? And they're selling oil to China, right? They're still selling oil to China, but that now China knows it's conditional, and that's where the power is. Let's see. I mean, there's a reason why China is investing heavily, or had been investing heavily, in South America and places like Venezuela. Why they tried to take over the Panama Canal, financially. Macross says China has been disinvited to the American hemisphere under the Monroe Act. Some people are calling it the Donroe Act because of Donald Trump. But yes, that's the idea, is that the United States controls the Western Hemisphere, and it is not going to be world police in the same way that it has. Obviously, it's still acting like that, right? I mean, look at what's happening right now. But these boots on the ground, I mean, and again, if Trump decides to put boots on the ground in Iran, and that becomes a protracted thing, even if it's a short thing, I don't see it being short because it's a large country, a lot of people, it's mountainous. It would be extremely difficult combat, a lot of deaths. But the idea is supposed to be that, no like long ground war things. I mean, more precision actions where they don't get bogged down. So Omnivos, Dark Star is John Carpenter movie from 1974. An artificial intelligent nuclear bomb stopped following human instructions. I've heard of that movie, Dark Star. Isn't it kind of a comedy, actually? Supposed to be kind of a comedy? All right. Macross says Alacablebo. Just out of nowhere. I think he has Tourette's. Let's see. All right. Let us move on. Let me have some dark comedy, Omnivos says. All right. All right. So, talking about Canadian media bias here. So Brian Lilly is commenting on this. CTV News. U.S. Supreme Court blocks California policies intended to protect transgender students. Whoa, they're so mean, that Supreme Court. They're just trying to protect these students. And the Supreme Court blocked it. Oh, this is Canada. Okay, this is Canadian media. They are, I think, worse than the United States at this point, than their heroes at MSNBC and CNN, the New York Times. I think they're worse at this point. They certainly learned everything they know from them, but I think they've surpassed them at this point. And one of the techniques they use to control the Canadian population for the Liberal Party is to misinform and smear anything conservative in the States. Certainly anything MAGA, right? Is to smear and deceive the Canadian public about it, so that then the Liberal Party can use that as a bludgeon, okay, against our domestic conservatives, the Conservative Party of Canada, call them Maple MAGA, blah, blah, blah. This is a strategy that is being employed by the Liberal Party and by the media here. So we get stuff like this. U.S. Supreme Court blocks California policies intended to protect transgender students. Oh my God, they're monsters. Let's see. Brian Lilly comments on this. What does he say? Another way to phrase this is that the U.S. Supreme Court said it was illegal for California schools to keep information from parents about children transitioning genders. Which do you think is more accurate? Well, Brian Lilly, I think the protecting children from the schools is more accurate. I think that making it illegal for California schools to trans people's kids without telling them, I think that's more accurate. Wouldn't you say so? In fact, that seems to be the thing protecting children. But this is what we get in Canada constantly. You wonder why Canada is so deranged. Mark F. Proudman wrote this. The U.S. Supreme Court prevents California schools from hiding gender changes from parents, which is what Daniel Smith also wants to prevent in Alberta. The difference is that the U.S. Supreme Court can see the absurdity of hiding information from parents, while here in Canada, Smith had to use the notwithstanding clause to protect children from courts captured by gender ideology. Yes. Yeah, so children are being protected. It's just not in the way that the Canadian media would like you to believe. It's really shocking, actually. I mean, just look at this. I mean, how do you, just to write this headline, right, you have to be deranged, in my opinion, to think this is accurately describing what's going on there. Yikes. Yeah, the Supreme Court blocked. The Supreme Court is protecting children from the people who want to do medical experiments on them. Wow. All right. What do we got next? Oh, hold on. Honest Reporting Canada. Honest Reporting Canada. Grassroots organization dedicated exclusively to ensuring fair and accurate media coverage of Israel and the Middle East and Canada. All right, let's take a look. One country missing, not random, not accidental. Hey, CBC News, is selective geography your new editorial standard? So let's see, what do we got? We got all the places: Lebanon, Syria, Cyprus, Jordan, Saudi Arabia. Wait a second, there's one here that seems to be pretty central to the whole thing. CBC wipes Israel off the map. I find it difficult to believe this is just an oversight, quite frankly. It's the CBC. Obviously, it's intentional. It's actually just spite, I think. It's just left-wing spite. It's progressive spite. All right. I think that's everything we have there. All right, let's move on. I want to go back to the chat for a second. Nevada says, Omnibus, I somehow missed that one. Talk about Dark Star. Well, as I recall, I think I actually started watching the beginning of it once, actually. As I recall, it was like a very low budget. It was like his first one. It was almost like a student movie, almost, kind of, was it not? And it's got a major cult following now. Let's see. Was it John Carpenter or what's his name? I think it was John Carpenter, wasn't it? You know, now I need to know. Hold on. Gotta do a fact check. Fact check. Wondering if it might be George Lucas, but I'm wrong. Directed by John Carpenter. John Carpenter. So that's it. That's it, Omnivos. You were right. I was wrong. I'm an idiot. You got that over me now. You got that over me. Hey, I'm a man. I can take it. I'm an idiot. I blew that big time. I blew that. What the hell was I thinking? Thank God I've got you guys here to keep me honest. Thank God. All right. Don't ever call me an idiot. All right. Let's see. Let's move on. I hate it when the chat is right. Let's see. McCross says, this isn't protecting transgender students. This is protecting children during some of the most confusing times in their lives. Yes. Protecting them from a gigantic social experiment. Nevada says, I thought Trump was going to get rid of the Federal Board of Education. Well, I think that's pretty tough to do. Let's see. Omnivore says, Dark Star was his thesis film at UFC. He graduated before completing it. All right. Dan O'Bannon. Dan O'Bannon from what worked with it? Okay, I don't know. Dame Pam says, but Radio Baloney, you're our beloved idiot. LOL. LOL indeed. Nevada says, Richie, get back on your game. Get your head out of your ass. All right. I really blew it. Omnivore says, Dan O'Bannon, Return of the Living Dead. Very well indeed. All right. So let's move on. What about an ad? People love ads. 1775 coffee. Come on. You can't say no. All right, people, you still haven't tried 1775 coffee? What are you, crazy? Are you crazy? Now's your shot. The 1775 starter kit just dropped. Only 1,000 units. You heard that right. You're getting the bold dark roast that hits hard, the smooth medium roast, and the vitality mushroom coffee for clean energy, which, as everybody knows, is the best energy and laser focus. No crash, no commies. All single origin, small batch, toxin-free, and mold-free. The best coffee is mold-free. Everybody knows that. Plus, you're also getting, guess what? A gold spoon clip, the best kind of spoon, because freedom isn't scooped with plastic. What are you, some kind of dingbat? A frother strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's opinions. Probably some kind of commie hag. Yikes. And a black 1775 tumbler. Folks, that's $170 worth of coffee and gear. Yours for only, and I can't believe I'm even saying this, $99. That's less than $100. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble, wondering if it's actually worth it. Well, guess what? Spoiler alert, it is. Go to 1775coffee.com. That's 1775coffee.com. What is it? 1775coffee.com/studio. Don't forget that, /studio, and grab your starter kit before they're gone. Before they're gone, you don't want to be all alone and crying. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something. Is it anti-communism on Radio Baloney? It is. Just like Rumble does. Beautiful. Talk about a little slice of heaven. Little slice of heaven for everybody. That's why I do this. I do this for the people. For the people. Because so often they're looking at an ad, they're watching an ad, and they're just let down. You know, they don't even believe the ad. They don't even believe the thing in the ad has any value whatsoever. That's where I come. That's where I come in. I sell it because I live it. All right? You can trust me. I would not lie to you people. I love that ad. It's a beautifully written ad. It's the most beautiful coffee that's ever been. Gold spoon and stuff. I mean, come on. As it says, oh, joy, what I needed, commie and mold-free. You can't get better than that. I'll take 3. All right, see, this is what I'm talking about, folks. Izzy says 1776 out of 10 for the win. That's beautiful. That's almost the most you can get out of 10. Thank you so much. Let's see. Izzy says, my night is now complete. Think I need a cigarette, but don't smoke. Well, you better start. All right. I got to tell you one thing, though. I'm getting a little tired myself. Anybody else getting a little tired? Anybody getting a little bit tired out there? I feel a little bit tired. Almost like I could kind of use a little boost or something to get me through the rest of the stream. I don't know. Anybody else feeling like that? Like you could use a little kick, a little something special? Get you through the rest of this stream. Anybody feeling like that? You know what I'm talking about. Sometimes, you know, you've got work to do. You got something to do, but you just don't have that energy. but you want to keep going. But where would you get that energy from? I know myself. I mean, I had a bunch of coffee, had a couple of double espressos earlier tonight. I smoked crack. I had that blue meth from Breaking Bad. Still nothing. I had 7 polar bear adrenal glands. Guess what? Not enough. Not enough. What the heck can I do? All of that? I mean, can my body even take more than that? I don't know. I mean, I can't imagine where I could go to get the kind of energy that I need to put on a great show for the rest of the...
They, them, energy. They, them, energy. They, them, energy. They, them, energy.
And teapot. It's Tuesday night, folks. It's Tuesday night. It's they, them energy night. There ain't nothing like it. Nothing like the they, them energy. I still think they're maybe not sending their best representative. However, I can feel it. It's coursing through my blood. I can feel it. I can feel that they, them energy coursing through my blood, through my nervous system right now. I am shaking with the power of the they, them energy. Pure, what's the other word? Not undiluted. I'm looking for that. Pure, unadulterated. They, them energy. Oh, there we go. I think we lost Spambot. Spambot, that was the deal. Tuesdays we get to do it. Don't be sore. He does this every time. God damn it. All right, let's move on. The deal was Tuesdays. Let's see. I try to, please everybody, but you can't. You just can't. Not in this world. Oh, we got to do chocolate now. But Rosie's not here, so we don't. So we're not going to. We'll wait till Rosie comes in and demands it. All right. JDL, how you doing? Nevada says dancing minivan. JDL says, now I have the energy. That's why I do it. That's why I do it for you folks. Everybody, by the way, everybody like the stream. Everybody put a like on the stream. What are you thinking? Put a like on the stream, folks. Come on, get that free good karma. In these troubled times, can you afford to turn your back on some free karma from Radio Baloney? The best kind of karma that there is. Everybody knows that. Can you afford? No. Can you afford to do that? No. JDL says, hit that like button. Everybody hit it. Hit it. No truer words ever spoken or typed. But what about my chocolate fix? As he says, no, it's a Rosie thing. We're waiting till Rosie comes back. If Rosie comes back, we'll do it. I'm cheating here. I'm cheating. All right. All right, everybody. Now what are we doing? Well, we did that. We did this. Oh, did we have anything else here? No. Okay, let's move on. All right, let's listen to this. So, Barry Neufeld is the former school board member who was fined $750,000 by the BC Human Rights Kangaroo Court for not agreeing, for refusing to say that he believes that men can become women or vice versa. The gender wang, the gender, metaphysics, the redefinition of the word gender into an infinite number of abstractions. He doesn't believe in all that. He refused to affirm that. So they fined him $750,000. So here is Jim McMurtry, also was fired from his job as a teacher for not agreeing with the whole genocide narrative. Let's take a look.
They have grown to be the most powerful union in all of North America, and they control.
Do you know what? I can't play it with the music. I should have watched this beforehand. We'll do that on Monday. It is a copyright thing. Let's see. We'll do it on Monday. Glenda M., have you ever wondered how our country became the colossal mess it is today? Look no further than this. Well, if you're doing a man on the street thing in Canadian cities, most of the people won't be Canadian or speak English. So let's take a look.
Mark Carney or Pierre Poilievre?
We actually don't have any preference there.
Mark Carney or Pierre Poilievre? Who do you think is better to run Canada?
I really don't know about Canadian politics.
Do you prefer Mark Carney or Pierre Poilievre? Who would you prefer, Mark Carney or Pierre Poilievre?
Sorry, my English no good.
Excuse me, sir. I have a quick question for you. Do you prefer Mark Carney or Pierre Poilievre?
I have no idea who you're talking about.
No worries, thank you. Do you know much about Canadian politics? What's going on or anything like that?
To be honest with you, I just got out of prison. I just did 9 years, so like I'm not really in society that long. So.
Okay.
But I do not like Mark Poilievre because he's conservative, right?
Pierre Poilievre is a conservative, and then Mark Carney is a liberal.
So I prefer the liberal.
Do you prefer?
So did you hear that? Just got out of prison after 9 years. Doesn't know anything about politics, but Mark Poilievre, he doesn't like because he's conservative. So he just likes the liberal guy. I wonder why. I wonder why a criminal would like the liberal guy. I wonder why. Let's watch that again.
For Mark Carney or Pierre Poilievre?
I have no idea who you're talking about.
No worries, thank you. Do you know much about Canadian politics? What's going on or anything like that?
To be honest with you, I just got out of prison. I just did 9 years, so like I'm not really in society that long. So.
Okay.
But I do not like Mark Poilievre because he's conservative, right?
Pierre Poilievre is a conservative, and then Mark Carney is a liberal.
So I prefer the liberal.
Do you prefer Mark Carney or Pierre Poilievre?
Mark Carney.
And just why, real quick?
Because I think Poilievre is an idiot.
So this is typical of Canadian boomer liberals. He doesn't even know Poilievre's name. He thinks he's an idiot. He thinks Poilievre's an idiot, but he doesn't even know his name. Let's listen again.
Quick.
Because I think Poilievre is an idiot.
Poilievre. He doesn't even know his name. He certainly couldn't spell it. I think this is very typical of the liberal boomer mindset in Canada. Doesn't even know his name, but thinks he's an idiot. If he doesn't even know his name, certainly couldn't spell it, obviously. What do you think he knows of Pierre Poilievre? Just as about anything about him? Does he know anything about him? Does he know anything of his policies? His policy ideas? Does he know anything? Does he know that Mark Carney basically stole the getting rid of the consumer carbon tax from Pierre Poilievre? Of course he doesn't. Of course he doesn't. He knows nothing. This is the problem with Canada right here. This is why Canada's in the mess that it's in. A bunch of smug liberals who know literally nothing, right? I wonder what percentage of Canadian liberal voters, or NDP voters for that matter, that could pronounce Poilievre's name correctly. I bet you it's less than half for sure. It might be like less than 10%. Yeah, this guy's brain has been corrupted by mainstream media for sure. For sure. He's an idiot. I don't know his name or anything about him, but he's an idiot. I don't like him because of that. Because Rosemary Barton's teleprompter told me he's bad. So JDL says he's a USA draft dodger, probably. Izzy says, well, to be fair, I can't spell Poilievre's name either. Get your head out of your ass. God damn it. Start working on it right now. Start practicing 20 times. You got to write it out 20 times right now. Okay? God damn it. I don't mean to be harsh, but you know what? I am fair. Tough, but fair. Let's see. Izzy says, soft on crime is good for a criminal. Yes, I know. That's why the criminal wants the liberals. Izzy says he doesn't believe in the female penis. No, does not. So find $750,000 for that. Izzy says I struggle to pronounce it also. You got to work on that, my friend. You're gonna have to work on it. I'm telling you right now. Poilievre, or you can also say Poilievre. Let's see. You got to work on it, my friend. You have to work on it. This is called tough love right now. I'm doing this. I'm saying this because I care about you. Okay. Izzy says, but I know who he is and support him fully and know how to put X by his name on a ballot. Well, that is really all we need. So just disregard everything else I said. Let's see. JJ Nevada says, who would have thought he looks like a genius? Yeah, this guy, this real winner in life here. Let's see. I'm assuming works for the government, by the way, as well. So it's probably his union, his public sector union rep probably told him to say that. Fearless Driver says that street interview is near Robson Square in Vancouver. It's so frustrating that Canada's future, its destiny is in the hands of these fucking people. These fucking people. The liberal boomer vote is like plus 25 in Canada. That's really why Carney won. And if he wins again, he'll win again. Because of these fucking people that are selling out. I mean, I'm going to assume this guy doesn't have kids, but they do have kids selling out their own children, their grandchildren, their great-grandchildren. What for? For fashion? Right? In the hopes that they won't lose 5% of their home equity in a correction? Well, the correction's happening now already. So too late. It's just maddening. Every generation following has to suffer because of these fucking people. These selfish, narcissistic, smug a-holes. Not to be too, I mean, look, maybe he's a really nice guy. I don't know. Right? So I'm just going off a little bit here. But it is maddening, isn't it? It is maddening. Izzy says they think they know nothing, but think they know everything. I know. Is he wearing a purse? I believe he is. Dame Pam, he looks like a weak, shabby, brainwashed, dumpy-looking idiot. You know what? Here's the thing. I don't want to be too mean on this guy. We don't know. He might be a really nice guy who's just watched too much CBC, right? I don't know. So I don't want to be too... It could be a really good guy for all we know. But it is infuriating to hear this from a guy who can't even pronounce Pierre Poilievre's name, doesn't even know his name, but thinks he's an idiot because he's been told that. If he can't even say his name, I guarantee you he knows nothing of the man or his policies or the Conservative Party of Canada. And it is infuriating because it's everybody following him that will have to suffer because of it. And this country is being destroyed. It is being sold off for spare parts. It is being impoverished at an incredibly rapid rate. I mean, only 1 decade to turn Canada from what it used to be, which was a great country, into this shithole. As he says, sadly, they usually are nice people that have been brainwashed. How old is that jacket? Ass? I don't know. It's not cool anymore, though. Dame Pam says his shoulders are narrower than his waistline. Probably a government worker. But again, I don't want to pick on the random guy. Maybe he was having a bad afternoon. You don't know. But I do think that if you're going to call somebody an idiot, you should at least be able to pronounce their name. Like, if you can't even do that, you're just showing that you're not paying attention. You're just going along with political fashion. But maybe he was just having a bad day. Who knows? Juno News says a publicly funded university in BC is offering teachers a graduate certificate in decolonizing education systems that outright states the program is not a pathway to expertise. Oh, God, they're just begging you to waste your money. They're just begging young people to throw away their futures. My God, it's pathetic. Oh, my God. A publicly funded university. Holy crap. Well, decolonizing education systems. So that can only actually mean one thing if they really meant it. That would mean just razing them to the ground because they are a product of decolonization. They're a colonial project, right? There would be no universities, schools, anything, right? If not for colonization. So if they really wanted to decolonize it, they would just have to shut down. They could decolonize right now. So instead of offering a course, a bullshit course, which is totally meaningless and insane, on decolonizing education systems, instead of doing that, they could just shut down. There, decolonized. Boom. They don't need to do anything else. That's literally all they would have to do. And what does it even mean? I mean, there was no concept of classroom or universities in North America. I mean, it is pretty much, these things are pretty much Western inventions. Decolonizing them doesn't mean anything, right? It's like making water not wet. Hold on a sec. So it's all just total insanity, isn't it? I mean, it makes no sense. Hold on, let's play this for a second. Here's Ben Mulroney.
So now they want people to use they, them as part of an inclusion initiative that also promotes gender-neutral language like sibling instead of brother or sister. Okay, I have to say this, right? So I saw this video of two trans clothing designers, and they were livid that Zara still had men's and women's fashion categories. So I'm told that the raw numbers are like, why do people obsess over the trans community that only represents less than 1% of the population? Right? That's what I'm told, right? Why do you care less than 1% of the population? Well, it's because in certain examples, that less than 1% wants to change everything for the 99%. And as somebody said, it's sort of like outlawing 5-fingered gloves because some people are born without pinkies. You got to pick a lane. It's either so small of a thing that nobody should care because everyone just wants to live their life, or you're coming to reinvent society and you want to get rid of men's clothing and women's clothing. And we can't say sibling, we can't say brother and sister anymore because those aren't inclusive, even though they are inclusive of 99% of the people. That's the definition of inclusive. I'm sorry. I'm not going to live in a world where I'm going to change every word I use. And because I don't, I'm intolerant. Absolutely not. I will not play that game. And that's Ben Mulroney's inclusive take of the day.
Well, he makes an excellent point. I think we did watch that yesterday, though, didn't we? All right, let's get to the last tab. Let's see. That is a Monday one. Let me just update this. Let's see. All right. A dolphin meets the woman who saved him from fishing nets some time ago. All right, let's take a look.
Oh my gosh, do you remember me? 6 years ago! Whoa! Squeeze! I can't believe it!
Oh, buddy. Come in ahead and pull us some more.
Oh my gosh, do you remember me?
Now, as we know, unfortunately, dolphins are the rapists of the ocean. So there's actually quite a dark video. Also, it happened on Epstein Island. So just going to keep going back to the Epstein Island thing. Let's see. We've already seen, we got to save that for Monday. So listen to this. Very, very disturbing, right? Libs of TikTok. Reminder that Biden regime set up a hotline for unaccompanied migrant children to report safety issues with sponsors. 65,000 calls went unanswered. Only one person was assigned to answer calls. Now we find out the Biden admin paid the child traffickers at the border. I mean, let's take a look. It is so disturbing what happened in that time. It's just, let's take a look.
So you're telling this committee that the Biden administration while they were letting all of these unaccompanied minors into the country. And as we've talked about today, they weren't keeping track of them. They issued these kids a hotline that they could call if they had trouble with the sponsor family that they were put with. And you're saying that 65,000 calls to this hotline designated to protect these kids went unanswered? Is that what you're telling this committee?
Yes, sir.
Wow. That is unbelievable. Unbelievable. Do you know how many staffers the administration assigned to answering these phones and helping these kids?
One.
One staffer? Any idea how many hours a day this staffer was working?
No.
Maybe that's why there were 65,000 calls that weren't answered from these little kids, huh? Unbelievable.
It really is, isn't it? It's like they just did everything they could to just keep it going, keep the flood of people across the border going, just to try and conceal the kind of human tragedy that was unfolding. It's really, really incredibly dark and disturbing. The more you find out about it, the darker and more disturbing it gets, isn't it? Yikes. Just
So
awful.
you're telling
All right. Actually, what
this
are they
committee
saying underneath? Anything? Biden-Harris accomplishments. Let's see. Allowed 15 million unvetted illegals into the country. Some say as many as 20. I mean, the numbers I've seen are 12 to 20 million, right? Historic inflation crisis, record high gas prices in all 50 states, record high consumer debt, released terrorists into the country, Ukraine-Russia war, Israel-Hamas war, disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, violent crime skyrocketing. It was a lot. Tried to jail political rival in the name of democracy, and unbelievable. Lied to the American public about Joe's decline. Declared war on American energy. Record low test scores for K through 12 students. Most unpopular president and VP in history. Well, look, I mean, the thing is, it could run literally anybody and get 45%, 46%. That hasn't changed. In the next election, I mean, they may win. Regardless of who they run, the base vote is going to be like 45%. It could literally be anybody. It could just be somebody off the street, right? They could run Bernie and get 45%, right? Anybody. So, it is. Yeah, I mean, it is not over. MAGA hasn't won. It's still very dangerous. Hold on. Let's see if we can get one more. Hold on a second. I want to show you this as well. This is one from Tristan Hopper. He wrote the book Don't Be Canada, which you can check out. It's very good. This is one of the most illuminating Canadian poll results I've ever seen. A pitch-perfect illustration of an electorate who sees politics as a reality TV show and never considers the consequences of what they're supporting. So from David Coletto, new poll. Fewer than half of Canadians believe the end of CUSMA would be bad for Canada. So this is just shocking beyond belief, right? Only 45% it would say it would be bad. So CUSMA is the free trade deal of the United States. So that means 85% of Canadian products go across the border tariff-free. You've got 45% thinking it would be bad. Only 45%. I mean, CUSMA is Canadian prosperity, right? Like without that deal, right? It's a catastrophe. Depends on what replaces it, but it's going to be bad, right? Like a majority think it would make no difference or even be good. This is just baffling beyond belief. How could people believe this? Let's see. It's a GIF. There we go. So let's take a look here. Well, right now, how much confidence do Canadians have in PM Carney dealing with President Trump? Well, considering that he's been in for a year and the tariffs are worse now, let's see, 68% say confident, very confident, or somewhat, which is baffling. I mean, just baffling. Anyway, let's continue. I think there's one more here that I'm missing. Here we go, I think. All right. Expected impact of ending the Canada-US-Mexico Free Trade Agreement. So Canada overall, a very good thing, a good thing is 26%. Expected impact of ending the Canada-Mexico Free Trade Agreement. So bad or very bad thing is only, let's see, 45%. 45%. Only 45% of Canadians think it would be a bad thing. I mean, this is lunacy. This is, how to even explain it? I mean, I guess it's just a total ignorance of the Canadian economy and like where money comes from. But it would be catastrophic. Everybody, like every economist knows this. Like every banker knows this. I'm sure Mark Carney knows this very, very well. Wow, a 29% neutral. 29% neutral. I mean, this is not good for the future of Canada. I mean, this is black pill stuff. This is very black pill stuff. Very depressing, actually. But I don't know. Maybe people will wake up once they really start to feel the consequences. Tristan Hopper said, "This is one of the most illuminating Canadian poll results I've ever seen. A pitch-perfect illustration of an electorate who sees politics as a reality TV show and never considers the consequences of what they're supporting." Reality TV show. Well, it's at the foot of the media. It's at the feet of the media, who have just refused to inform Canadians on reality. It's just a Carney cheerleading section. It's just the Liberal Party cheerleading section. Right? Carney says there's a rupture. They say, oh, how prime ministerial of him, of saying that our relationship with the United States is over. It's obviously not the case. It's obviously ridiculous. We're going to wake up every morning and still be right next door to the United States with all those roads and pipelines and bridges and stuff, just perfect for trade. That's going to be the reality every morning that we wake up. So, and you have to lay this at the feet of the media. Just totally, it's not that they're not informing Canadians, they're misinforming Canadians, right? Somehow Carney's, I thought, ridiculous speech in Davos, an hypocritical speech in Davos, that's somehow going to save Canada. Well, I mean, he's already contradicted his own speech several times just since then. I guess it wasn't such a great speech after all. Yeah. But yeah, very depressing stuff. Let's see. What do we got here? Nico Perino. So, if you think speech bans will stop your enemies, history suggests otherwise. This is something that the left used to understand. The ACLU used to be very pro-free speech, even for people they genuinely hated, like Nazis and stuff, but they understood the value of it and what is lost when you lose it. Because when you ban one person from free speech, you're really banning everybody. That really applies to everybody. And eventually, you're going to be at risk of disagreeing with the government. And then you're going to need that free speech. Let's take a look.
History is littered with sobering lessons about those who trusted individuals in power with subjective tools like the right to police offense. Here's one example. 1974, in this country, the National Union of Students tried to pass a speaking ban for racist and fascist speakers. And as I was campaigning in support of this ban, it reached out to various student organizations. One of those was the Union of Jewish Students, which supported the ban, thinking that it would target the far-right National Front. Well, what happened? You can guess. A couple local unions decided to use this ban to target Zionist speakers. A mentor of mine once said that speech restrictions like these are like poison gas. They seem like a great idea when the enemy is in your sights and the wind is at your back. But ladies and gentlemen, the wind has a way of shifting. And when the wind shifts, you want the right to offend to be on your side. I urge you all to vote in favor of tonight's motion. Yes, this House believes in the right to offend. Thank you very much.
That's a great way of putting it that I'd never heard before. It's like, it's like a, it's like a chemical, a gas attack. It's great when the wind's at your back, but the wind is going to change, And again, leftists used to understand, the ACLU used to understand this. It will come back and be used against you. I guess that these authoritarian tendencies have been seemingly just so baked into so many people now. They don't seem to care. They think that the boot on the face is good. We saw this during COVID, with the mandates and the hysteria around that. There were people who quite liked the boot on the face. They liked having privileges as opposed to rights. When they got the privileges, when they, did what they were asked to do, and they were able to go out to have dinner or go to a movie or something or get on a train or a plane, right? They were patted on the head and told they were good little girls and boys, and I think they felt special. They felt better than the people who couldn't do that. It turns out they preferred to have privileges instead of rights. It's very disturbing. It's the product of just constant leftist nudging over and over. Now it's very pronounced. Now it's very obvious. But for decades, it was not as obvious. It was more insidious, but just the constant framing and nudging. And unfortunately, a lot of the population of Western countries has just bought into it now, and they just simply can no longer see beyond their own shadow. Right? And hey, Rosemary Barton's teleprompter tells them that censorship's good. You have to ban hate speech. Hate speech is bad, right? And don't worry if you don't know what that is. We'll tell you. In fact, we're definitely going to tell you. Disturbing as hell, but yeah, he's right. Robert Bruce Wilsey says, what offends you is up to you. Therefore, offense is almost always taken when and where it was never given. Indeed. All right.
History is littered with sobering lessons about those who trusted individuals in power with subjective.
Cambridge Union debate. Who won? Nigel asks, how did the vote go? Nico Prino said, we won. So they won the debate. So there's a spark of hope there in academia, right? All right. What else did we have here? Oh, this is interesting. So this post has almost 300,000 likes from Wall Street Apes. The world is waking up to white liberals. All right, let's take a look here.
Guys, did you know that white liberal college student knows more about Islam than an individual that had to escape the Islamic Revolution in Iran and come to America? And did you know that white liberal college student knows more about communism than an individual who was born in a communist country like me and whose family was prosecuted by the communists? Oh my God, these people are so knowledgeable. And did you know that white liberal college student knows more about the European healthcare system than an individual who was raised there, who has a citizenship, who went to school there and contributed to taxes and actually went to a doctor's in Europe? Me. I mean, these people, it's really incredible. I mean, who cares about my babushka who was put into Stalin's camps at 10 years old and starving? There's nothing that the white liberal college student doesn't know because their credential is $200,000 in student loan debt. Thank you very much. Guys, did you know that white liberal...
Yeah, it's gotten out of hand, hasn't it? But it's, what do you expect when you've got professors, Marxist professors, intentionally turning out revolutionaries every year? A new red guard every year. They're teaching them to be activists. And they're walking away from it with, $200,000 of debt or $100,000 or $80,000 of debt. And they're bitter about that. And they can't get a good job with their, underwater feminist critical race theory degree. So they're angry, as well as having been trained in activism instead of getting a real education. And it's really, really sad. But what else? You're going to get that. You're going to get that. My solution is that no public funds for universities, and they have to just make it on their own. And if they can make it with insane, anti-Western, racist courses, well, I guess good for them. My feeling is probably they won't be able to, and they'll have to cut back to really the core stuff. And of course, they'll try and in fact, they're infecting everything, including like stuff like engineering, the STEM stuff. They're infecting as we speak. But you're going to have to make a statement on that as well. I have to think at some point it becomes counterproductive because students will simply choose to go to a different country for their education, or colleges, universities that aren't doing that. And those will start to spring up, right? Non-woke universities will start to spring up. Some of them still exist. I think there's still a few, like free speech and stuff that matters, but we'll just have to see. All right, we already did that. Let's see. Oh, look at this. Good Lord. Andy No posted this. And San Francisco convention, Democrat convention, a trans activist tells Beth Bourne that she's going to hunt her down and effing end her. Why? Because she was being told about how much doctors, clinics, and hospitals were making performing trans surgeries on children. There is something really, really wrong with this ideology, and we're seeing more of this. We're seeing these mass violence events, and the whole kind of energy behind it just seems to be very demented and angry and violent. Let's take a look.
It's not hatred. You guys, it's not hatred to tell a child that they can grow up to be healthy and whole. A surgeon makes off giving a girl top surgery. Kaiser Permanente charges only $100 copay, and the surgeon makes $25,000. I was approved for a phalloplasty in 2 appointments over Zoom. My doctor told me I could have a fake penis that would allow me to either pee standing up or to have penetrative sex, but not both. Do you think your transgender child might one day have top surgery and a phalloplasty? Is that something you would allow them to have? They make a phalloplasty out of the skin tissue on your thigh or forearm. It's like a skin sausage. It's a fake penis.
So this is all just reality, right? So here's this person being confronted with reality. And let's see the reaction. By the dead eyes, you might have noticed. Probably not well. Let's take a look.
$130,000. I'm going to hunt you down and fucking kill you. Wait, you can't say that. You can't tell somebody you're going to kill them. You can't say that to somebody.
There is something about this ideology that it just seems to dement everybody that it touches. It's becoming a real concern, is it not? I mean, we've seen this kind of mass violence like half a dozen times in the past couple of years. You're seeing stuff like this. This is common, right? The whole thing is just surrounded by, violent rhetoric and imagery. So the more people see this sort of stuff, the more they're going to wake up. But unfortunately, this isn't going to make it on the CBC. Of course not, right? They're not going to talk any of the stuff that she was talking about. Let's see. Let's watch that again.
It's not hatred. You guys, it's not hatred to tell a child that they can grow up to be healthy and whole.
So it's not hatred to tell a child they can grow up to be healthy and whole, right? That isn't hatred, right? That's responsible. That's responsible. That is not, permanent medicalization, right? It seems to make a lot of sense. It's certainly not hatred, right?
Surgeon makes off giving a girl top surgery. Kaiser Permanente charges only $100 copay, and the surgeon makes $25,000. I was approved for a phalloplasty in 2 appointments over Zoom. A
phalloplasty in 2 appointments over Zoom. Just think about that. How can that be responsible health care? Seriously, how can that? And she'll describe what that means.
My doctor told me I could have a fake penis that would allow me to either pee standing up or to have penetrative sex, but not both. Do you think your transgender child might one day have top surgery and a phalloplasty? Is that something you would allow them to have? You know, they make a phalloplasty out of the skin tissue on your thigh or your forearm. It's like a skin sausage. It's a fake penis. $130,000.
Yeah, and you see testimony from people who've had that, and it's just awful. They're describing what it is. They're not happy with it, by the way, right? They feel it was a terrible mistake. And it causes endless health problems, infections, serious infections, life-threatening infections, pain. It's when you hear it described by somebody who's undergone it, it's clear that these are experiments. These are people that are being experimented on and nothing else. Disturbing. All right. All right. Camus posted this. This is actually from 2020. No, it's not from 2024. Sorry. Camus posted this. GadSat eviscerates the gender debate in under 2 minutes on Piers Morgan's show. So GadSat is on Piers Morgan quite often. And GadSat is much gentler on Piers Morgan than he is with most people. Most people. I think he likes some. You can see him get exasperated with Piers Morgan occasionally, especially when it comes to the issue of Islam. But let's take a look here.
Donald Trump is an agent of change. What change?
Well, Donald Trump is clearly an agent of change. You may not like the change.
No, I'd like to know what the change is.
Can I offer
Yeah,
one?
off again. Yeah.
Not having 6'4" women with 9-inch penises that used to be called Bubba yesterday, but today are called Linda, sharing the bathroom with my 13-year-old daughter would constitute a return.
Now, can you answer the question in a non silly way? Because I don't know anybody 6'9". Can you answer?
So the question, so it's invalid because she doesn't know anybody 6'9". So they pretend to not understand, right? That's how they deflect.
The question in terms of what you mean.
I've never seen a penis that
Yeah,
big.
what and a penis that long. So can you answer it in terms of real world things? What do you mean?
Having reversed the policy of having trans women, i.e. biological men, competing in women's sport until 15 minutes ago, the 117 billion people that had existed on Earth throughout human history seemed to be able to navigate through the very difficult conundrum of what constitutes male and female. But 15 minutes ago, we were no longer able to do that.
Well, you're actually you're wrong, because there have been cultures in which they have made definitions of what male and female are. And they're not majority cultures. They're not the ones that we live in. But through human history, this has always been an issue. Always.
But see, the thing is, that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean there's anything other than just male and female. But let's continue.
In those cultures that you're referring to, which I'm very familiar with the field of cultural anthropology,
yes.
When people decided to mate in those cultures, did they typically mate by having two phenotypes called male and female get together?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, there you go. There you go. I mean, it's so weird because it is literally like metaphysics, right? It's like a gender soul, as if this is clearly like an unfalsifiable claim, yet they just keep going with it. Like it's just made up. Again, it's a redefinition of the word gender, which used to be just synonymous with sex. We used to use them interchangeably. We all remember this, right? Right, but the redefinition of the word gender into an infinite series of abstractions, totally unmoored from reality, right? It is literally an article of faith for the modern left. I mean, we can see it. It just starts to look more and more like a cult the more you look at it, doesn't it? Not interested in reality. Anyway. Do we have anything else? We saw that one. Okay. And we saw that. Let's go here. I wanted to take a look here. CTV question period. Japan's ambassador to Canada, Kanji Yamanouchi, says continued access to the U.S. market as provided for under CUSMA is essential for current and potential increased Japanese investment in auto manufacturing in Canada. So this is where the rubber hits the road. This is where reality asserts itself. I mean, Carney can make all of his speeches about somehow Canada leading the free world and leading all of the middle powers in a revolt against, I guess the great Satan, the United States. But here's where reality starts to hit.
The auto sector. I mentioned that last time you were here, we were
Yeah,
talking about the
yes.
opening of an EV operation.
Mhm.
I was looking at a statistic that was pretty startling that showed, a study this year showed that Toyota and Honda produced 77% of the cars and light trucks built in Canada last year, which reflects a pretty steep decline for the U.S. car makers. Where do you see the future of Japanese production in Canada?
I think including the automakers, the Japanese companies see the Canadian market with strong interest. There are 5 reasons. One, enormous resources, critical minerals and others, oil and gas. And second, quality of labor. Thanks to their very effective migration policies, those companies can hire all the people need high-end to their workers. And 3, society is very stable. They are very welcoming. And 4th, the federal government and provincial governments are very generous to welcome, to invite investments. And 5th, you are the part of the biggest market of the world, North America. The Canada is part of this market based upon the free trade agreement. With those 5 conditions, the Japanese maker chose to come to the Canadian market. And the automobile industry is very important. And compared with other companies from other countries, Japanese companies have a strong commitment. They think trust is very important. So once they hire the people, they usually do not lay off. So they maintain their employment at good times, bad times. So that is sort of the reasons why they have 77%. Great example of the collaboration between 2 countries.
How important is the existence of the access to the U.S. market and that free trade agreement that you mentioned?
Yes.
How important is it to maintain or increase Japanese investment?
I think
in
that
Canada?
is the critical condition, because Canada is, of course, a G7 country. Your GDP is one of the top 10 countries, $2.5 trillion. But the size of the US market, 30 trillion. And I think, so all those cars made in Canada, of course, sold in Canada, but at the same time exported to the US market. I think those companies, private companies, I mean, they have to calculate to increase profit. So CUSMA is very important part of the calculation.
So they have to calculate. So in other words, they have to deal with reality. So reality is asserting itself here. Reality is asserting itself. Reality is asserting itself at no number of Davos speeches to people who Mark Carney knows and is friends with is going to change that. No matter how much CBC praises Mark Carney's just word salad speeches, it's not really going to change the minds of these Japanese automakers, for instance. They're just looking at the bottom line. They don't care about his speeches, right? So again, as he said, they're calculating. That's what people living in the real world do. Let's see. Andy says, there's no doubt that Carney's decision to allow Chinese EVs will be a major mistake. Yep.
The autos.
Yes, it will. Will Canadians wake up? Probably not. All right. Do I want to do this land? So the land titles thing is this slow motion catastrophe that's unfolding in British Columbia. Not just in British Columbia, though. This is already happening in other parts of Canada. And eventually, this will happen all over Canada. because you've got activist judges. You don't care about prior agreements or treaties or any of that, right? Keith Wilson, KC, says 95% of the land in BC is under Aboriginal title claim. 95%. Now, that's $2 trillion worth of land. And so far, they're getting everything they're asking for from the socialist government in British Columbia and now from the liberal government of Canada. Let's see. So the federal government, the Carney government, tried to hide this agreement. This is where they are giving land title to most of the lower mainland. Like, this is Vancouver, right? Like where most of the people in the province live. Okay. Let's see. What does it say here? Incremental implementation measures means any measure between Canada and Musqueam to incrementally implement Musqueam's rights and title within Musqueam territory. So they did this secretly and hid it in like a fisheries announcement. This is total lunacy, considering that there was a case already in Richmond where a part of Richmond was handed over to the Cowichan tribe. And this has been a catastrophe. When there's a lot of gaslighting going on around this here. The Cowichan and Musqueam are not coming to take your homes, BC. Anyone who tells you otherwise is doing it for nefarious reasons. Except they are, actually. And let's take a look. Hold on a second. Here is the Cowichan, the Richmond decision. What does it say here? The question, this is from that decision. Here's from the judge. The question of what remains of Aboriginal title after the granting of fee simple title. So fee simple is what was supposed to be, what was supposed to mean that you owned your property. It was your land to do with as you liked in Canada, right? That's what's come into question here with Indigenous title above that. The question of what remains of Aboriginal title after the granting of fee simple title to the same lands should be reversed. The proper question is, what remains of fee simple title after Aboriginal title is recognized in the same lands? That sounds ominous, doesn't it? That sounds like a lot can happen. That doesn't sound like nobody's coming for anything. That sounds like you better be worried. Wyatt Claypool responds to this here, saying to this person saying that they're not coming to take your homes and that anybody who tells you otherwise is doing it for nefarious reasons. Wyatt Claypool responds to this, and I thought this was pretty good. This is a really foolish dodge on the issue at hand. Land title and control over activities that take place on the land. Land title and control over activities that take place on the land. Yes, nobody thinks 1,495 people are going to start kicking down doors and taking homes. It absolutely, though, could come to that. I mean, it could come to people just losing any rights over their property, right? Once this comes to its fullness, we don't know how far it can go at this point. Already, this is a catastrophe, but it's going to get worse. But because of the Aboriginal title sitting over top of everyone else's title, you may need to pay the Musqueam property taxes, get permission to develop property, and they could have veto on the other economic activity within the defined area. It's an insane decision. Don't listen to people using the claim no homes will be taken away to then try and pretend this agreement is a nothing burger. It's devastating. This literally means, I mean, if you want to build a deck on your house, you might have to pay. Might have to have somebody come. You might just have all of a sudden somebody show up and do a dig to see if there's remains there. This is a catastrophe. This will set BC back to the Stone Age. I mean, this is the apocalypse economically for British Columbia. This has to be stopped. This has to be stopped. All right, so the BC government is fighting the Richmond judgment right now. I doubt that I doubt that they're really fighting it. I think this is what they wanted. NDP, Socialist Party, David Eby, Socialist. I think this is what they wanted. I think they're pretending to fight it. I don't think they really are. And why Mark Carney would grant Aboriginal title over Vancouver? Vancouver. This is madness. This is madness. Let's see. Oh yeah, here's David Eby. He said the premier of BC saying that. Well, let's listen to him.
You said at the outset, Premier, on the Musqueam announcement that you hadn't been briefed on it yet. I find that a bit startling. Did the feds not brief you, or do you mean you just haven't gotten caught up on it? Can you explain that a bit?
Yeah, sure, Les. To the best of my understanding, the provincial government was not briefed at the political level on this. I can't say whether or not at this stage whether any public service members had line of sight to it. I certainly didn't. But with that said, I'm not surprised that the feds were involved in these conversations. They've been involved with these conversations with Musqueam for a long time. The Sparrow...
Yeah, he had nothing to do with it, except he was there for the signing. So just lying. It's all intentional. It's all intentional. All intentional. Hold on a second. Yeah, you can see the territory here. Look at this. Canada hands control of Vancouver to Musqueam Indian Band. So all of this, you can see this here. It's all of Richmond now. It was just a little bit before all of it now. So now the Cowichan and the Musqueam are going to have a court battle funded by taxpayers, by the way. So, I mean, it's just crazy. It's just lunacy. It's like 2 million people. This is an economic catastrophe. There's also Vancouver International Airport revenue sharing agreement. So get ready to pay more to fly out of Vancouver, by the way. Yeah, it's all crazy. This is just, the country has been taken over by crazy people at this point. Mark Carney. I've been saying that Mark Carney is not a moderate. He's every bit as woke as Justin Trudeau is. He's just as bit as woke as Justin Trudeau was. In fact, he's Turbo Trudeau. Harman Bangu, MLA for Langley Abbotsford. David Eby stood in front of cameras and said he wasn't even briefed. Not briefed on federal recognition of Aboriginal title over Metro Vancouver. Not briefed, yet he attended the signing event in his own writing. Which is it? Well, he's obviously lying. Obviously lying. Hold on a sec. Did I have something else? Did I have something else? And this is 95% of the province that's vulnerable to this right now. Hold on. Give me a second. Something else I wanted to show you in here. Hold on. I had one other thing. Here we go. Press release, news release, Government of Canada. Rights recognition agreement, Aboriginal rights, including title within their traditional territory, and establishes a framework for incremental implementation of rights. So they're going to do it slowly. They're going to steal your life's work from you slowly. They'll do it incrementally, right? Frog boiling in a pot. That's the plan. This is Mark Carney, folks. This is Mark Carney. He just took a catastrophe. Richmond was a catastrophe already, and he just made it 1,000 times worse. How anybody can trust this man? Of course, we're not going to hear about it on CBC or CTV or Global because that might frighten people into not voting for Carney, into not letting Carney destroy them financially and steal away their life's work. Anyway, so if you want to know the people that will be taking over, right, and that will be lording title over Canadians, well, let's take a listen here.
As a band member, I don't know where all this money is going. Is it going to where it's supposed to, which is band members,
or is it being siphoned off to other places and other people? Most people won't ask questions because they're afraid of the pushback and the blowback from the chief. So they really have no way of addressing the situation, and they're afraid to. They can try and take your house away from you. They can do an investigation of you to try and kick you off the reserve. If you're working for the band office, they'll have you fired the very next day. I know 3 different people that's happened to. And they don't want to poke the bear and get everyone saying, oh, this is racism, colonialism, all this stuff. But you should be concerned about it because you don't know where the money is coming from. For example, the chief, is it coming from kickbacks, foreign governments, from gangs? It's a combination of all of them. So it's not racist. It's your right to know. This is why I want access to the general ledgers, the balance sheets and all that, so I can see where all this money is going, because we really have no idea. As a band member, I don't know where all this.
So, I mean, it just all seems insane, doesn't it? It's all total lunacy. This is where wokeness, this is where infinite empathy, this is where calling people racist or phobe because they don't agree with you or because they insist on respecting reality. This is where it leads to. I mean, I don't think most people in BC still don't understand this. I just saw a new poll that shows the NDP is all of a sudden they're very close with the Conservative Party in British Columbia. So that tells me more people at least are starting to learn of what's happening, what's being done to them in secret, hidden from them by the media and by the government. I think once everybody will find out with social media, everybody's going to find out. At that point, we're going to see if, Canada is really salvageable, because if this doesn't wake people up, right? If it isn't clear after this that the NDP or any leftist party will never win an election in British Columbia again for 1,000 years, if that's not the case, we're in big, big trouble. I mean, maybe British Columbia separation is the only thing to do here. I mean, maybe that's it. Maybe we just need to separate and just write our own constitution and get rid of all of this stuff, because this is apocalyptic economically. Do you understand that? Like, this is going to, if people wake up and all of a sudden their house is worth 10% of what they're paying for their mortgage, right? If all of a sudden every business just goes, right, because of the uncertainty of all of this, right? The uncertainty of just like, well, when is there going to be a new tax? When all of a sudden am I going to have to pay rent to a tribe? Am I going to have to have inspections for every little thing that I want to do for, where you have to pay it through the nose, where you're paying, hundreds of thousands of dollars for special Aboriginal inspections and digs for remains and all of this stuff. Like, money is going to flee. People will be left destitute and no money will come in. This is apocalyptic. And if you think the government can just buy it back, no, this is $2 trillion worth of land. Right? The national debt is $1.5 trillion right now. Right? This is enough to bring down the actual country. Forget about Alberta separation from Quebec. This is enough to destroy the country, bring down the country. Right? If people are afraid of becoming the 51st state, better start paying attention to this. All right. Anyway, it's total and complete lunacy. All right. Let's see. Let's go back to the chat. Yeah. All right. Danielle says, breaking news, male and female make babies. They always have. Sexually reproducing species, turns out. Let's see. McCross says, can't fault someone for choosing Honda. It's a good car. The problem is Honda stopped short of making great cars. Their cars are deficient in features, but I think they're a reliable car, though, aren't they? Let's see. Nevada says, wait till they add in that tariff. Well, the original tariffs were because they were putting non-USA, USMCA compliant or CUSMA compliant parts in the cars that weren't included in the CUSMA agreement. The US had an actual complaint there. You wouldn't have known it from watching the media, of course. And the tariffs were just on the non-compliant parts, by the way. And I got that from the White House website, which apparently the CBC, Rosemary Barton's teleprompter never bothered to go there to check it out. Let's see. Macross says, have you seen the new Prelude? What a piece of shit. I haven't. Let's see. Oh. Dame Pam says, King Charles certainly seems to support this land grab from all those who have been paying taxes for over 100 years. King Charles is just a traitor to the UK, to Western civilization. He is awful. But really, it's the UN you can thank for this. No surprise that Carney's actually in favor of it. It's from UNDRIP, United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People. So it's not even a Canadian thing. This was something that was put on us by the UN, and we very stupidly accepted. Didn't have to. Totally voluntary. Totally voluntary. The destruction of the Canadian economy, totally, like every other thing they've done, totally voluntary. Let's see. All right, I'm going to skip down a little bit. Oh, we got Rosie back. Good to see you, Rosie. All right. Right, I'm going to skip down. Dame Pam says, those who vote NDP aren't the brightest kids on the block. Now that their homes are in jeopardy, it may wake them up. Well, most of them aren't homeowners, which is why they're NDP. But they'll be surprised when their rent goes up considerably. Let's see. JDL says, Richie, move in with Viva Fry. Oh, dear. It's all lunacy. All right. So let's get to this last bit of stuff we have here. Most of it, I can't show that tonight because that'll be copyrighted. How about this? This is gold. Millet mic drop. Millet, even if I didn't agree with him on everything, I would like him just because he's so entertaining. Let's take a look.
No, ustedes no pueden aplaudir porque se les tapa las manos los bolsillos ajenos.
Oh, there's no, hold on a second. Can we get video settings, playback speed? Where is the thing for, there's no, oh, you know what? There's no translation here. All right. He's saying the left can't applaud me because their hands are in other people's pockets. Yeah, he's always saying stuff like that. I like it. All right. That's it. That is it. All right. Oh, wait a second. Hold on. This is good. All right. So I did have some more. Hold on. Dudes posting their W's. I didn't watch this with sound, but I'm sure there's no music. A day will come when my kid can take me. Sometimes I have to remind him, today ain't that day. Let's take a look.
Yo, Dad.
Yeah.
Can you make me one?
Sure.
Good boy.
Oh! You're my right nut. Like, ow.
Well, Rosie's demanding chocolate. Okay. All right. I was hoping you'd forget. Let's do it. Hold on. Because we did the they them energy thing earlier. Now I got to do the chocolate. It's in the contract. Let's see. Chocolat. That's how we say it here. Chocolat. Chocolate cookie. Let's do cookie. All right. And it never comes up with like, if I type chocolate cookie, it's always like something else. What do we got here? I made chocolate dipped strawberries and figs, along with amended jewel dates stuffed with tahini, chocolate hazelnut, crunchy katifi filling, all dipped in Belgian chocolates. Well, doesn't that all sound weird and maybe delicious? Maybe. I'm not convinced. But I mean, it looks healthy. Looks healthier than like normal. It looks healthier than like a Mars bar. It's got dates and like fruit in it and stuff, so I guess not too bad. I guess that looks pretty good, huh? It looks fancy. That looks like fancy chocolates. Oh yeah, look at that. Look at that. Are you happy, Rosie? Are you happy? Let's see. Rosie says an apology for gaslighting me about women's chess rolls. Well, that is correct, though. What I said, they have a lower. I was sure that they have women's chess grandmasters have a lower ranking score, whatever you call it. Maybe we'll have to do a fact check. Maybe I was wrong. Let's find out.
Fact check.
One second, you guys. Okay. Let's find out. Oh, they don't. I was wrong. No, women chess players do not need a lower rating to become grandmasters. The grandmaster title from FIDE is an open title available to all players regardless of gender. The requirements are identical for everyone. A FIDE rating of at least 2,500, typically 3 GM norms. Exactly the same as men. So I was wrong about that. Let's say there is a separate women-only title called Woman Grandmaster, which does have lower requirements, rating of 2,300 plus 3 WGM norms with performance around 2,400. This is not the same as the GM title. It's a distinct lower tier award restricted to female players. Well, what do you know? Roughly comparable in strength to an international master level. Huh, well, what do you know? GM open to all, including women, 2,500 rating plus norms. WGM, Women's Grandmaster, 23 rating, and it's for women only. Well, what do you know? So it turns out I was right all along. But not really. Kind of right. So, we're going to split it down the middle. Okay, we're both right. We're both right. So you're right, but I'm also right. How about that? I think that works better, and everybody's happy. I'm happy, you're happy, everybody's happy. We're both right. And it's not misogynistic. Rosie gave 8 out of 10 on the chocolate. Fantastic stuff. Beautiful. McCross says, hasn't there been only one Grandmaster female champion, and she has only won one tourney? I don't know. Rose says, definitely fewer women. I'm sure there must be one of these or more. And it's dominated by men. It is. Izzy says, my chess score is sub 100, just like my IQ. Be proud of what you got. I'm sure I would score under 100 as well. Let's see. Rosie says, that was not an apology, but I can be happy with the split. Thank you. Very well. I'm happy with the split too. All right. Well, I guess that's it. We're 2.5 hours in. It's a Tuesday night. I think that's pretty good. All right, everybody. So Friday, I may have to cancel Friday. If I do, I'll go live on Thursday night. If I can, I will do Friday. If I can maybe start late, I'll do that. Maybe I might have to start like 9 o'clock or something, which is kind of late. And then maybe do a shorter one. But it's possible I might have to just cancel and then maybe do a Friday night or a Saturday night stream. Maybe Saturday night stream works good. But I will let you know on X. So yeah, I'll let you know on X. If you don't hear anything, if you don't see anything on X, just assume it's going ahead as usual. Let's see. Or I'll put up the thing on maybe I'll put something up on Rumble as well to one of those little short videos. I don't know. Trudeau's Driver says, what's happening on Friday? Boxing? No, it's not boxing. It's I got people coming into town. So it's going to be over the next few weeks. I'm not doing a road trip until the summer, so that's good. So I'll be near my studio, but I might have to, I think actually on the 17th, I think that's a Tuesday. I'm going to have to miss that one for sure. So I might have to miss a couple. It won't be like normally when I go away, when I pretty much just miss most of it. Although it was not bad last time. Last time I did manage to get 2 streams in. But yeah, there might have to be a couple of adjustments this month, including Friday, but I don't anticipate too much. And again, I'm at least close to my studio here with my good internet and everything. So, but I will put it on X. What's happening? Are we doing a raid? Yes, let's do a raid. Okay. All right. Trudeau Survivor says people coming over. Prostitutes, got it. No. Shut up. Shut up. All right. Let's go to Rumble. Let's do a raid. Thank you for reminding me, you guys. I appreciate that very much. Any requests? Keep in mind we can't do any of the ones we've done already this month. So we can't do Eric John Pizza. We can't do the third Railify. All right. Here's our choices. What do we got? Badlands, Media, Valhalla, VFT, Real America's Voice. Let's see. Okay. Give me some suggestions, you guys, if you got anything. What about the quartering? Let's go to the quartering. I think we like the average Joe Patriot. All right. Average Joe Patriot 1776. All right. Is it not live? It's not live. So we can't rate it. Okay. So we can't do that. Let's do the quartering. I like the quartering. Let's go to the quartering. All right. He is live. So let's copy this. Copy. And then we'll go here. And raid. And put this here. Paste. And let's go. Confirm raid. Checking power levels. Ready, set up, almost to go. Thrusters on standby. Preparing for action. So thanks everybody for showing up. And thanks everybody for showing up. We'll hopefully see you on Friday. But if not, I will leave a note on X. On Ready Baloney. All right. Anyway, that's it, everybody. Everybody have a great week. We'll talk to you later. See you, everyone.